So there we have it, the Apple iPad Magic Keyboard. Is it for everyone? No. But is it for you? Let's find out. So the first thing I'll say is this is a heavy boy. It's a little heavier even than the actual iPad Pro. I got the 12.9 inch version, which weighs 654 grams. The Magic Keyboard weighs 693 grams, bringing the total to 1,347 grams. That's 3 pounds for you guys in the US. And that is by no means a light setup. To give you an idea, the new MacBook Air weighs 2.8 pounds. Having said that, it makes sense. Unlike a laptop that has all the weight in the body, this setup with the iPad Pro, of course, makes it top heavy. You need the heavy base as a counterbalance and to make sure it doesn't tip over. But it does also mean that you can in fact use it in your lap. The overall build feels really solid. The keyboard itself doesn't bend at all and the hinge is very strong. It locks into place when you push it back, and then there's a relatively limited range of angles you can put the iPad in. Most angles will be useful for typing depending on the position you're in, and the 90-degree angle is great for watching videos or playing video games. But what about this angle? Surely there's no use for that. Oh yes, there is. It definitely isn't made for taking notes with the Apple Pencil, as there's no way to lay the iPad flat. Well, I guess there is, but come on, you're not going to do that in a coffee shop or at a meeting. So if you do want to take notes or draw, you'll have to remove it from the keyboard and lay it on the table bare. I don't really like doing that because I'm afraid I will scratch it that way. Maybe a solution would be to put a D-brand skin on it or any other skin if it doesn't interfere with the magnets too much. The material feels the same as the old keyboard folio or the Smart Folio, so it's not bad quality, but I do wonder how long it will last before the edges start peeling or the material around the hinge starts to give. The hinge itself is fully made of aluminum, so I guess that should be fine. One of the coolest features about this keyboard is the USB-C pass-through, which you'll find on the bottom left. Not only is it much easier to hide the cable, it also frees up the iPad's own USB port for one of the many applications that are now possible thanks to iOS 13. The keyboard itself is fantastic. It has the same scissor mechanism as the 16-inch MacBook Pro or the Apple external keyboard. Personally, I never really had an issue with the butterfly keys, but I know a lot of people did and they're happy they're gone. The keyboard is backlit, so that's cool. But you can't adjust the backlighting using the keys. You'll have to go into the settings menu to do this, which is a little annoying. But to be fair, you don't really need that option, because it uses the iPad's light sensor to know when backlighting is needed. I'm sure it'll drain the iPad's battery a little bit, but probably not that much. By the way, that's not the only thing missing on the keyboard. It has no function keys, and a physical escape key is missing as well, which is a bummer, because I would have liked to be able to go to the home screen by pressing escape. The shortcuts are there, even though they're not the same as on the MacBook, but there's a really handy trick. When you hold down the Option key, it will show you what shortcuts there are, depending on the app you're in. The last thing I think is worth mentioning before moving on to the trackpad is the floating position of the iPad. It looks really cool, but if put in the angle that is most comfortable for my eyes, the iPad sits right above the number keys, which means my fingers hit the bottom of the iPad from time to time. But I'm sure I'll get adjusted to that fairly easily. Now for the trackpad. I wasn't sure if it was going to be any good, but it really is. It actually clicks instead of the haptic feedback you find on MacBooks, but you can click anywhere on the trackpad and it will work. It also has the same functionality as the Apple Magic Trackpad, including the gestures. Of course, it's considerably smaller, but it gets the job done. One thing to keep in mind though, is that not all apps are optimized for the trackpad, and you will still have to use the touchscreen every now and then, at least for now. But there's a few other ways I think it comes in really handy. You can use it as an iPad stand to sit next to your MacBook or external screen and use it with Sidecar. It will also work really well if you like hooking up the iPad directly to the external screen and use it with other peripherals like a keyboard or trackpad. For instance, if you like editing on LumaFusion, you could do so on the external monitor, almost making it feel like you're working in Final Cut. For my MacBook, I use the CalDigit TS3 Pro, which is a beast of a dock. It offers virtually all ports, and you can even slide in an SD card in the front. For a minute, I thought I could just disconnect it from my MacBook and hook it up to my iPad just as easily. But of course that doesn't work, since the iPad doesn't support Thunderbolt 3. What does work is a simple dongle and an HDMI cable. I guess any dongle would do, but I really like this one by Anker. It's light and it has plenty of ports, a couple of USB ports, both micro and regular SD, a USB-C port for your external SSD, and you can even plug in an Ethernet cable. And it's not expensive at all. I'll put a link in the description for you guys. The one gripe I have with this is actually more of a gripe I have with the iPad itself. I don't understand why Apple doesn't put the camera on the iPad's side. We're all stuck at home and video conferencing has become the new normal. Technically, you can do it with the iPad in landscape mode too, but it just looks awkward. Apple, please move the camera on the next version of the iPad Pro. One thing I hadn't considered when I ordered this keyboard, and which turns out to be really useful, is using it as a charging dock. I never really let the battery on my devices drain all the way, and I put them on a charger whenever I can. Because the keyboard has the USB-C pass-through, it has its own place in my office where it lives, and whenever I'm not using the iPad, I'll just snap it into the case. And when I do need it, I'll just take it off and leave the keyboard there. If I need to bring the keyboard, I'll just unplug the cable and take the whole thing. So now for the main question. Is this keyboard for you? There's a few things to consider. First off, this thing is expensive. It starts at $299 for the 11-inch version and $350 for the 12.9-inch. And that's a lot more expensive than the Keyboard Folio. If you live in Europe like me, you're screwed. The 12.9-inch version costs a whopping €399. That's $430. You can buy an iPad for that. But it's not the Keyboard Folio, it's much better. The typing experience is amazing, and the trackpad really makes it feel like it's almost a computer. It's a real productivity booster. And if you use it for work, or you type a lot, it's definitely worth the investment. But if you're on a budget, or you're looking for an all-rounder case that can do it all, this is not the one for you. You would still need a different case for handwriting or drawing. I really like it, and I think I will leave my MacBook in clamshell mode much more now. I might do a little update review after I've used it for a while, so let me know in the comments if there's anything in particular you would like to know, and I promise I will cover it in the next review. If you like this video and you want to know when the next one is up, please subscribe to my channel. It's new and I'd really appreciate it. Don't forget to hit the bell so you get notified when I upload, and I hope to see you in the next one.